Today the theme is Opendock gate management, especially the driver checkout and the digital BOL signing that we just released. My name is Yann Morize. I'm a Senior Product Manager at LoadSmart, and my responsibility is around everything that touches the gate. So meaning check-in, check-out, ID validation, smart gate, and all of that. And so I'm really happy to show you what we've built very recently. Just to repeat the housekeeping rules, the session today is going to be pretty short. I'm going to be speaking for about 10 minutes. So even if you have to leave within these 10 minutes, the meeting is going to be recorded. So you can always watch it later. Um, and it's going to be very short because the rest of the time is going to be open for Q&A. So don't hesitate, please, to ask questions while I'm talking. We're going to try to address all of those at the end of this session. Additionally, we're going to be sharing resources within the chat and also in a follow-up email after the session. All right, so today we're going to be talking about, um, first starting with gate management overall, just going over the context, the problem, the vision, the goal. Then we're going to go a bit deeper into the driver checkout feature. Then we go over the BOL signature, and then obviously we're going to wrap this up in a live demo within the Opendock environment. So let's start with the problem. The problem is that the expectation is that carriers and warehouses, the interaction is very smooth. So the driver would arrive and would just talk with the receiving desk and leave instantaneously. Obviously, that is not the reality. I've visited a bunch of warehouses across the US, and very often you would have tape all around the receiving desk. And that is because too often the driver has to wait for a long time, or the receiving desk has to interrupt their operations to then, check in or check out a carrier. And the process is just pretty inefficient. And so that's where Opendock gate management really comes into play. That's our vision is we want to make this flow way more smooth, right? And remove these friction points. And so the way we want to do this is to make it as self-served as possible for the carrier. Because a lot of these things, you still need them, right? You still need to have visibility on what's happening in your yard. When, did the carrier arrive? Did the carrier leave the yard? You need to be able to exchange information, right? Like assigning a dock door or answering questions from the driver. You need to capture a bunch of data points from, security measures, but also just like, is there damages on the truck or like just, the name of the driver, for example. And then at last, you will probably also need to have some documents being signed. And so when you look at it across all these 4 points, visibility, we already had the check-in. Now we build the checkout, right? So you have full visibility. Exchange of information, we have the two-way SMS. So you can, through Opendock, directly text with the driver, and he or she will be able to text back through their phone. On the data capture, all of the fields on check-in and check-out are fully customizable. So you can choose what you want to ask the carrier to add as information. And then the last point, the document signature, well, that's why we're here today, and that's the last feature we built, being able to sign a BOL. Because the goal is, pretty simple for warehouses. You want fast throughput, reliable data, and especially empower your warehouse staff. So don't interrupt them in their tasks and let them work on what matters the most. And, as we're two ways, we serve the carrier and the warehouse. For the carrier, it's also very important that the process is super clear and it's very easy so they can go fast through it. So let's go through how the checkout now looks in Opendock. And don't worry if you can't follow this diagram. There's going to be the full demo at the end of this session. But so basically, it's pretty much a mirror of the check-in. So for the checkout, the driver can either scan a QR code on their phone or they can go to a tablet. Then, if you decided to enable the BOL signature, they'll be able to review the BOL and then be able to sign it digitally. And then, if it's on a tablet, they can even print it. So now, diving a bit more into the BOL. So the BOL will never be generated in your doc scheduling, right? So there, you need to have a way to bring the BOL within Opendock. And there's two ways to do that. Either you do it through an integration, right? Because the BOL will be generated on your TMS or on your WMS. So you can have these tools interact directly with Opendock. ShipperGuide, for example, LoadSmart's TMS is already fully integrated with Opendock on that front. So in your TMS ShipperGuide, you'll be able to create the shipment. The BOL would flow directly to Opendock based on webhooks, and then it will update in real time with the data from Opendock, and then you'll be able to sign in Opendock, and it will be sent back to ShipperGuide and to Opendock. If you have a WMS, it's the same flow. And we actually have one of our partners, Camelot, that already built the integration. It is live. Now, obviously, maybe you don't want to build a full integration. And then you have the ability to do a manual upload. We're planning to release this at the end of this month, but here the system is very easy. You just have a upload BOL button. So it may be a picture that you want to take with your phone, may it be a BOL that came through an email. You'll be able to upload it in the user interface. And so in the demo, I'm going to show you in a few seconds, we're going to go through the manual upload piece because it's obviously a little bit harder to demo an integration API calls. By the way, please don't hesitate to ask questions in the Q&A or in the chat. All right, and we're already in the live demo. So you'll see it goes pretty fast because that's what it's designed for. So I'm starting here. I think everybody's familiar with that screen. That is the appointments. I have an appointment here that was set by a carrier with this confirmation number. And now I'm going to drive you through all the flow that the carrier has to go through. So this is the appointment. The carrier would start by checking in, right? So again, that is either through a QR code on their own cell phone or on a tablet that you've put somewhere, either at the receiving desk or at your gate. So they would start by clicking check in, enter the reference number or the confirmation number, some details, their phone number, and this is it. I didn't record time, but that's probably somewhere around 15 seconds. So now when you go back to the appointment, the status automatically changed to arrived. And you have the full audit log here. You can see exactly at what time the driver checked in. And so now you have the driver that is in the yard. They're probably loading or unloading. And now you're able to upload the BOL. So let me go through that. Upload the BOL. And now you'll have the BOL here, visible here. You can download it again, and you have the tag, so BOL available. You also have the tag visible here. So now again, you're the driver, you just got loaded, and you want to check out. So again, here, either scan the QR code or go to the tablet. Now, I highly recommend if you're doing the BOL signature flow to have a tablet. The reason is oftentimes the carrier need to have a physical copy of the BOL to then give it to the receiving warehouse. And therefore, if you have this on a tablet, you can connect your tablet directly to the printer so that when they're finishing the flow, they can automatically print the BOL and leave your yard. So here, again, I'm a driver. I'm starting the checkout flow on the tablet. I would have to enter my phone number just so that they know who I'm trying to check out. Here they'll be able to obviously see and read the BOL that was uploaded. And then they can sign. Click on agree. I've read it and I accept the terms. Here, I'm prompted directly to print this BOL. So obviously, if you have the printer here, you can see it connected directly to my Wi-Fi printer here at home. And you can see the signature being added here in the right place with a timestamp. Now, if they want, they can also keep a digital copy of that, so meaning the driver, right? So either send this via email or via SMS. And that's pretty much it, finalized. Again, that took roughly, okay, I talked through it, but probably like 40 seconds, right? So you can see the flow is fairly rapid. Now going back to the appointment, now I have the ability to download the signed bill of lading. So for the record, and then you can also see that the checkout automatically completed my appointment. And in case you have YMS enabled, it would automatically depart your asset as well. And that's pretty much it. Very simple, very straightforward. And I think we are done with the presentation as well. So opening up for Q&A. Thank you for adding so many questions there. I'm going to try to go through them one by one. I'm a slow reader, so please bear with me. So with Microsoft Business Central, I think you still have the choice. So either you would build the integration or you would go with the manual upload. I think you can also start with the manual upload and then seeing like, depending how much time this takes to your team, make the case on like, is it worth to build an integration there? How long will this information be available? So for now, we don't delete any data in Opendock. Multiple page BOL. Yes. Yes, so the BOL can be multi-page and it will still be written on the right place. That is supported. How a driver is expected to get the seal from their trailer. So that is in which piece do you mean that? In the checkout piece, once the BOLs are, I would say the flow should be that the seal is written down, is added to the BOL, and then you upload the BOL. That will be the correct flow, right? Because if you upload it before, obviously you don't have the seal number. So it's all a matter of timing there. If you build the integration with Opendock, there is an ability for Opendock to send for you to pull the seal number from Opendock. I love all the questions there. This is great. Yeah, so for if they add their phone number at the checkout, is it possible for them to receive the BO via SMS to sign from their phone? So it would be possible to send the signed BOL to their phone, as you saw in the last screen there. For the signature itself, that would, typically happen on the tablet. Again, I recommend that because if you could do the whole flow that I showed on the phone with the QR code, but the problem is like, how would they be able to print that? That is more complicated because probably their phone will not be linked to your Wi-Fi and therefore will not be linked to your printer. Um, could this be linked to Mfolio? I'm not sure. I know what Mfolio is. If you could just so on a few questions that I don't know the answers to, we're going to follow up with those because we keep track of all the questions, and then we'll answer them through email. Can a driver check in remotely, as in trailer queue? So yeah, the check-in, again, it's either through phone or through the tablet. You have the ability to set geolocation constraints on the check-in, meaning that, you would set a 1 mile radius around your warehouse. And if you don't want the driver to check in while they're on their couch at home, they will not be able to do so, right? So we have safeguards in that regards as well. Okay, if we upload the BOL, how will the BOL know where the driver's signature need to go? That is a great question, and it is something that we've been working really hard on. It's not an easy thing to do, but that's why the engineers are working really hard on. And we're trying to detect, if there's a driver name or driver signature, and then try to put it in the right place. So there's quite a few engineering hours spent on that to put it the right place. If you do the integration though, we currently support, a few templates, and if it's always the same template, for example, because you have your own WMS, then it will be 100% correct and way faster. Now, if you do on random images that you took, it will take maybe slightly more time, and there could be some misplacement of the signature. Okay, are we able to add additional items for upload? Yes, 100%. So if you want to add the care driver license as an custom form field in the check-in, let me actually show you that. Um, so read, you can go here. So custom form and fields, check-in, manage, enable field. And then here you can add any type of fields you want. So they can be fully customizable, right? So missing a field, create a new one. You can ask them to upload documents, pictures, text, true, false, anything like that. So yes, this is possible. Also, we're working on a feature that is actually going to validate their ID. So meaning take an image of their driver license, take a picture of their face, and validate that this is a valid driver license and the right person that's supposed to come. More on that in a future webinar. How do we adopt the BOL to ensure the checkout process and generate the document for printing? Um, I think, Carlos, this is probably a more general solution. I think for this one, we should put you in contact with the account manager because it does seem like you want to build an integration for this. Um, so just to clarify that, we'll reach out to you and try to understand what exactly you need from our team to set this up. We assign the seal after loading, so we would need to change the flow of our process. No, because the carrier checkout can happen after the loading is done. So basically, they're at the dock, you're loading the truck. Once you're done loading, you put the seal on, you record the seal number on the BOL, you upload the BOL, and then you let the driver check out at the gate, for example. Will the recording be shared to me with the IT team? Yes, the record. Mar, can you just confirm how we're sharing that?
Yes, we'll send a follow-up email that includes the recording, a gate management overview one pager, and an additional link to the EBOL integration guide. So you guys will receive that after the session, and you can watch the recording at any time on demand.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mar. Okay, got some support there. So Mfolio is a standard kiosk that has an open API. Okay, I think for the Mfolio thing, let's connect on this one. I am not sure how their API work, but they would probably have to connect to our APIs to have the BOL flow from one system to the other. Okay. Um, can drivers who aren't on Opendock still use this? Can drivers who aren't on Opendock still use this? Yes. Where is the presentation? Yes, 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 yes. The check-in, and that's really the strength, one of the strengths of Opendock is the driver doesn't need to have any login, right? So you can just access this URL by scanning the QR code or on the tablet directly. So even though the carrier has never heard about Opendock, if they see this on the tablet when they check in, it wouldn't matter. They would just have to enter the reference or the confirmation number and then some details. The carrier name, even if it doesn't exist in our database, you can still enter it. So I can enter something very random like Blue Eagle, and then you can just select that, right? Um, so to answer the question, yes. Even if the driver has never heard about Opendock, they can still use the check-in and the checkout. Can you send us the recording? Yes, we'll send a recording. Yes, so once the drivers have checked in remotely, is there a communication functionality to direct drivers to dock doors? Yes, 100%. So let me show you that as well in the user interface. So I mentioned the two-way SMS. I would just have to find, oh, the thread might be closed. Okay. Let me create this one then. Next one. I'm going to use a random number, so I'm not sure that's going to work. I'm just going to try for the sake of the demo. All right, so here I checked in with no reference number. So that's why it's going to pending because it's an unplanned arrival. Okay. I can't do the two-way SMS now because I used a random number that doesn't exist. But basically here, you can then connect this check-in to an appointment or create a new one. And then in that tab here, you will be able to two-way SMS with the driver. All right. Drivers can upload the BO from their phone. No, currently no, right? So the BOL would be uploaded by a warehouse operator on the appointment directly. Now, if you have an inbound load and you want them to upload the BOL for the inbound load that's already signed, they can obviously upload that in the check-in. So let me just clarify that because I realized by saying it might not have been super clear. For the BOL signature flow that I showed during the webinar, the only way to upload this BOL is here on the appointment. Now, if you have an inbound load and you want to capture the BOL, you can do this in the check-in by adding custom field. That's again what I showed here. So you go here, fields and forms, check-in, manage. And I do believe we have one here. No, so you would just create one field label, BOL, field type. Wow. Field type, single document or multi-document, however you want. There we go. Then you save this. It would come here. And so whenever any driver is going to come to your warehouse, they're going to come to this page, and then they're going to see the bill of lading added in there. Let me actually try to see if it updated right now. Yeah, here you go. So now the BOL to be uploaded is right here. But again, once they upload here, you can see it in Opendock, but you will not be able to sign it within Opendock. That's a different flow.
And really quickly, Jan, do you just want to show where they enable the BOL signature and the BOL notes in case there is no BOL?
Yes. So here for the BOL signature flow, it is, okay, I'm going a bit fast. I'm too used to going inside of Opendock. So in the settings, gate management, here you have the URLs for check-in and check-out. You can also print these QR codes, right? If you want them to use their phones. And then if you scroll down a little bit, so here you have the settings for the rules on when are they allowed to check in, when are they not allowed to check in. And then here you have the toggle if you want to enable the BOL signature or not. All right, going back to the questions. Okay, you already answered. Okay. Yes, and so that is a very good question, Catherine, because we're working on two things there as well. So what we see is that oftentimes drivers forgot their confirmation number or did not know their reference number. And so that's why we created this status, which is an unplanned arrival. So they appear here, and then you're able to open them communicate with the driver, and then assign them to an appointment or create a new appointment. You also have the option to reject this check-in. And so, that's really depending on the warehouse operations. Some of the warehouses, they don't want carriers to even come without the valid reference number. So that is something we're working on right now as well, to just restrict that. So whenever they will come here and they enter no reference number or wrong reference number, we'll not allow them to check in. That is not in production yet, but you can expect this to be there very soon. Please read the release notes that we send every 2 weeks, because then you'll see it appear in there very soon. All right. Any other questions? Also, like, please don't hesitate to reach out to your account manager. That is really what we strive for, is stay in contact with our customers. We want to make you guys more efficient. We want to help you in your operations. And so, any email, any phone call, please contact us. More than happy to support you, maybe on integration questions, maybe on settings questions, anything like that. How can you
Taylor,
be added? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to answer that. The release notes are found in the community. I will link them in the chat, and then I will also link them in the follow-up email as well. So you can review those release notes in the LoadSmart community page.
Great. And then there's also Beamer within the Opendock app, where you can just provide feedback directly in the app. So that is also very useful. We read every single feedback that you give us. Nothing is going unnoticed. All right. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. I hope that was useful. Again,